Hi friends, hope you are doing fine. I am Dr. Ganguly. Welcome to my channel. So today we are going to discuss the possibility of getting postdocs in companies, and essentially these are also known as industry postdocs. Now this is most prevalent in companies in the biology sector, the biotechnology sector, genetics, bioengineering, and so on, and also in pharmaceutical companies, which essentially use a broad set of tools in this area. Now, essentially, what's the difference between a company postdoc and a company job? Now, the main difference is going to be that while a company job is permanent, a company postdoc is temporary. But keep in mind that so-called permanent jobs in most private sector companies are not really permanent. But in general, if you join a typical permanent job, you can stay there for many years if the company is doing well. So now what happens in a postdoc position in the company is that this is typically for a 1-year period, and sometime it is renewed at the end of each year depending on the funding situation. So why would a company offer a postdoc? Now there are two primary reasons for it. One is that they want to use it as a recruitment tool. So they want to hire a PhD for a period of 1 year or 18 months or 2 years, and then check out this person before they actually give him or her a permanent job. The second thing is that they are doing some work which is experimental or exploratory in nature. They have not made a long-term commitment about this particular problem, and therefore they are not sure if they are going to fund this over a very long period of time. So whenever a company hires a person, they typically need to have a vision of 5 years or 10 years to actually give a permanent job to this person. So there may be a large group working on a certain chemical for a particular medicine, and then they will hire a number of permanent people in that area. But sometimes they may be just exploring a field. There may be some basic research type of problem which has come up while they are pursuing some discovery, and they would like a bright young researcher to come and delve into this problem. So that's when they think about hiring a company postdoc. Now, what are the advantages to you in terms of company postdoc? So I'd list some of the good points about a company postdoc. One of the biggest good points is that in many cases the company is likely to give you a permanent position at the end of this postdoc period, because they have put in a lot of money in your training, they have put in time in your training, you know the experimental facilities, the procedures and the tools within the company. So it would be a waste if at the end of a 1 year or 2 year period you went off somewhere else. You would essentially take all your training and go to that new company in that case. Now, so that's the first advantage, that you can get a permanent position at the end of this industry postdoc in the same company. Now the second advantage is that in many situations companies are flush with funds in comparison to universities, and therefore you are going to find that the equipments are state of the art, they are completely new. You are also going to find that there are a lot of latest software tools out there which are expensive, which may not be there in many university settings and so on. So that's the second advantage. Now the third advantage is that the pay is competitive, and the pay actually may be much higher than what you are typically getting from university postdocs. So like I mentioned, in the US, some of the pay is essentially set by bodies such as the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and so on, and this ranges around $55,000 a year. So in a company postdoc you may get much higher than this. You may get 75, you may get 90, or even more depending on the supply and demand ratio in your field. So pay is likely to be much more than in the university system. Remember that many of the pharmaceutical companies make an enormous amount of profit, so do not be shy of negotiating for a higher pay in case you are going for this postdoc, and also try to negotiate for benefits, because you want health insurance coverage, you want some of the coverage in terms of retirement plans if possible, or at least some initial startup grant to let you move to that location. Now, one of the advantages of being a temporary person is that you don't need to go to various meetings to discuss finance issues, to discuss budgeting, to discuss the dynamics of the department, to discuss recruitment of interns and so on. So you have a lot of free time. So in that sense, it is like a university postdoc, where essentially the PI shields you from a lot of the mundane work which the various people have to do. So you can devote all your time to doing research. So essentially that's a flip side of not being permanent, is that you are essentially there to do research, and your PI or supervisor will essentially tell you to do a set of problems and you just do them and then you are fine. Now, what are the negatives? And there are some negatives which you should keep in mind here. Now, one of the first is that the postdoc situation will largely depend on the company you are in and your supervisor. So, because you are temporary, you are likely to be put under a manager, and this manager is going to supervise your work very directly in a way similar to a PI in a university. But the supervisor may have problems with you, so all those kind of dynamic situations are possible. And so in case the industry is not a very good industry, it's not a very profitable industry, then there may be some negative aspects to that. Now, the second negative is that you essentially get to do what is widely known as applied research. So applied research is closer to what the industry actually does. So they are often focused on some actual deliverable which has consequences in terms of profit which is coming to the company. Now, there's nothing bad with that, but be sure that this may actually lead to problems which are more short term in nature than more long term in nature, which the university typically does. The third aspect about this negative thinking is that you may not be able to publish much or at all. So essentially the industry is very cognizant of the secrets and the intellectual property which is present in any discovery, and they do not want to share this with people at large. They want to keep it to themselves, or they want to file a patent for it in most cases. So they essentially may not be very willing to publish any type of research. So keep this in mind, that when you are going for the industry postdoc, your chances of publications may be limited and your CV building may be restricted for some time. Now, final issue is that problems are essentially driven by the market. So where this could be have a consequence is that let's think of a problem such as curing of various infectious diseases. Now, that's a problem which has enormous impact to humanity at large, and many government bodies would be willing to fund something like that. But the industry may focus on some problem which has high profit but may not be so important, such as curing male hair loss. So I know some guy who got a postdoc working on this problem, and here the thing is, the market for many of these lifestyle type of issues is much larger than the market for any kind of infectious disease type of issue, because it also depends to the people you are catering to. Now, one of the things I learned from some MBA type people is that you should focus on the customers who are rich. So this is generally the tendency in most of the pharmaceutical companies, that their focus is on customers who are rich, who can pay a lot of money for the medicines and drugs which are discovered, and so that is always going to skew the applied research as far as industry is concerned, in contrast to working in a government lab or at a university which tries to focus on problems which have greater impact on society and the world at large in most cases. So I would say, before going for industry postdoc, think about all these issues. If you are a person who very much wants to go into academia, become a professor, this may not be the best path for you, because it may restrict your publication list, it may not let you publish as many papers and so on. However, if you are a person who is interested in practical aspects of research, who wants to make a lot of money, then I think it is a good idea to go for this kind of company postdoc, because at the end of the process you are likely to get a job in the same company, or you can always escape to a different company. So you can use this time to improve your visa status if you are on some visa, or to save a decent amount of money, so that you are better settled in life. And then remember, as far as industry is concerned, they don't care too much about journal publications, so they are only interested in what you have done. So if you have worked on a certain problem, if you have been part of a drug discovery process, then they are going to essentially like you very much, and you can very quickly get a job in a different company if the same company doesn't give you a job at the end of your postdoc. So this was my take on the company postdoc. I hope you benefit from this video and stay subscribed to my channel. I'll see you sometime soon. See you then.